North Carolina A&T hires the former Texas Southern offensive coordinator to be their OC. Some people are happy. Some people are upset. I'm going to tell you what, it can't be much worse than last year. Oh, yeah, it's Locked On HBCU. Play my music. The voice is back.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics. Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor and current contributing writer at USA Today's Saints Wire. Thank you for going on this journey with me, making Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off doesn't mean that the journey is over. It just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code Locked On to get $20 off your first purchase. We'll come back to Gametime later, and they have an even better deal that we'll look at a little bit down the line. Now, we wrap up today's episode with our feature Friday about Brad Holmes, the executive vice president and general manager for the Detroit Lions. Prior to that, we'll look at Benedict College's new head coach, Ron Dickerson Jr. And we kick off today's episode with a news that gets a little bit split reaction when you look at HBCU Twitter. North Carolina A&T has hired David Marsh as their offensive coordinator. Now, you may not recognize the name because it wasn't a big name. I'll be honest with you. This was not a big name, and it wasn't one that even when fingers were being pointed at Texas Southern, it typically wasn't, Marsh wasn't said. When I did see people point fingers at Marsh, they always just said the offensive coordinator, right? The one person who got their name put out there a lot was Clarence McKinney. So you may not be familiar with the name, but you do need to know who this is because he was Texas Southern's offensive coordinator for the last 5 years. He wasn't out of work long after Clarence McKinney they chose not to renew his contract, right? It's important to get the right terms. You don't want to say somebody was fired. He was not fired. They just did not renew the contract. Semantics. But those who are familiar with Marsh, whether you want to be familiar with him in title or in actual government name, a lot of them aren't quite happy about this hire. A lot of them aren't excited about this hire. A lot of them express their displeasure about this hire. Now, I'll say this. Those who weren't connected to North Carolina A&T seem to be the people who were expressing displeasure. Those who are connected to North Carolina A&T seem to, and I know it's not everybody, but the ones that I saw, it was a sentiment of it can't be worse than it was last year. And that's where I land with the Aggies. And this isn't about backing up a guy who used to be the Texas Southern offensive coordinator. He had his issues. He had his good things, but he also had his issues. This is about the fact that they were putrid on offense last year. So I tend to side with them. Every hire can't be Tyler Rowe. Every hire can't be a slam dunk. Every hire can't be great. Some hires are just okay. Some hires are just meh. And this is that. I would not classify this as a great hire, but I do believe it's a solid hire. And when you look at what people are typically looking for in these coordinators, right? If we're talking about just HBCUs, y'all know how this goes. Does he have HBCU experience? Yes. Right? It's like that's one of the boxes, and it's a big box. It's a box that can overshadow a lot of other things. But they know that he has Texas Southern experience. He was in the SWAC just last year. No, the SWAC doesn't necessarily translate to what you'll be seeing in the CAA, but still the rules of local HBCU experience, right? Like either one of those boxes being checked feels almost mandatory, and it feels enough for me to really consider you. That's what I see. That's what I see, right? I know there's more to it than that, but that's what we typically hear. You can't go, I don't know if you can go down. Up feels like the only way you can go. Knock on wood when you say it, but when you look at North Carolina A&T's offense, they couldn't pass worth anything. There was multiple weeks that went by before I believe they totaled up to 100 yards. Like this was a terrible passing offense, and it was just a bad offense in general. Now, I will say this. You're not that bad without a lack of talent. And I'm not breaking down North Carolina A&T. I'm not going through the roster, but you're not that bad without a lack of talent. I feel confident in saying that because the coaching is bad. Yes, you don't get that bad without both parties being at fault. That's what I really should say. Coaching is bad, but just replacing the coaching more than likely isn't going to be enough. You need to upgrade talent. That's clear as new glass. So whether you want to blame the old offensive coordinator or not, he had to go. Now, this guy, David Marsh, he's going to need more talent than you had last year in order to make things work. That being said, it shouldn't go far. It shouldn't go down. It should only be up. And a lot of people didn't like Marsh because they felt it was too simplistic. They felt as if I've heard people question the late game management. I don't know if they strictly put that on McKinney or if they also put that on Marsh as far as play calling and situations, right? I've seen TSU blow leads. I've seen TSU put up points, right? And those two things go hand in hand because they had to put up points to get the lead. This feels like a participation trophy. In a way, when I say this feels like a participation trophy, but I say this only to say, I don't know how far up you go with Marsh, but you are taking a jump up because he has shown himself able to put up points. Let's put it like that. The leads, they put up points. Now, maybe when things get tight, he ain't the guy for you, but this could be a baby step. I don't know how great this happens, but Ladarius Owens became the leading rusher in Texas Southern history. Andrew Body had really good seasons under Marsh, right? So you've seen him be able to take talent and utilize it well. He might not have utilized it as well as you would like him to, but he's utilized it well. And right now, if I'm A&T, I'm just trying to look for some sort of improvement. So I think I'd be happy with David Marsh. I'm also not A&T, so maybe I don't want to speak for them, but that's how I would look at it, man. I just need some sort of improvement, something for me to feel optimistic about. So as we move forward, speaking of optimism, there needs to be some sort of optimism out there at Benedict College because you're replacing Chennis Berry, and now you have Ron Dickerson Jr. These are huge shoes to fill, and he's done his first press conference on the way to filling them, and we'll look at the conundrum and then also the pressures of this job as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime, and Gametime is the best place for all last-minute tickets. They have tickets available all the way until tip-off, kickoff, whatever you're talking about, all the way to an hour after the game starts, right? I don't care if you're looking at comedy, sporting events, concerts, theater plays, right? Anything going on in your local area, Gametime is the place for that. Now, if you use the code Locked On and you're new to Gametime, you get $20 off your first purchase. But if you're just on Gametime, period, and you use the code Vegas100, so Vegas spelled out and then the number 100, you will get $100 off of a big game ticket. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code either Locked On or Vegas 100. That's code Locked On for $20 off your purchase, and then Vegas 100 for $100 off a big game ticket. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. And remember, for your second listen, Check out Locked On Sports today, the first of its kind, 24/7, all day, every day, 5 a.m., 5 p.m. Sports Network on YouTube. First of its kind will be duplicated soon because who doesn't want to be locked on? But anyway, as he pushed forward, Benedict College has hired Ron Dickerson Jr. to be their new head football coach. And one thing that he has in common with Chennis Berry is they're both offensive-minded coaches. I want to be careful when drawing this parallel. I do not say this, Benedict College fans, to try to get you excited for Ron Dickerson Jr. I do not say this to say he will be like Chennis Berry. What Berry was able to do over the last 2 years is something that's very difficult to replicate. He went undefeated in the conference back-to-back years and absolutely dominated, lost an all-conference quarterback, came back the next year and dominated as if that guy was still on the field. So what I don't want to say is you will achieve the same level of dominance with Ron Dickerson Jr. I don't even know if Chennis Berry would have been able to keep that up for as long as he was the coach. That's just a very difficult standard to set. I'm only saying that they're both offensive coaches. Berry was an offensive line guy. He specialized in running the football. You look at everywhere that Chennis Berry has gone, they've been able to run the ball. When you look at Dickerson Jr., you're looking at a guy who is more of a passing threat. And he's done a lot. He's done a lot of things. He's been a special teams coordinator. He's been an assistant and associate head coach, right? We've seen him do that at Morgan State and Jackson State, where he was the assistant or associate head coach at those locations, as well as the special teams coordinator. But he's also been an offensive guy at a multitude of different spots as well. Matter of fact, he just came from West Florida, where he was the receivers coach and offensive coordinator. So this is a guy who is offensive minded, but in the other way, not running the ball, but passing the ball. These are huge shoes, as I've just laid out. Everything that Berry has accomplished will be a shadow over Dickerson Jr. It will be something that he more than likely is going to be compared to unfairly, but more than likely that will be the case. This isn't his first time being a head coach. It's his first time on the D2 level. He was previously the Gardner-Webb head coach, and he went 7-15 at that time. So now you're looking at him getting that second chance. Now you're looking at, can he turn the fortunes? Can he go 15-7? He's not on the FCS level. He's on the he's on the D2 level. So maybe things are different. And also, he's had time to grow as a coach. We just seen Raheem Morris become the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons about 12 years, I think, after he was the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So you're looking to see what have you learned in your time being on staffs, but not being the leader of a staff. But when you look at the shoes, how much improvement can you do? That's the conundrum when looking at the job. Is every other time I kind of come on here and I say, well, this coach does this so he can help the team in this capacity. And that's still true. Like, he can still be a benefit to the passing game. But when you dominate the way that Benedict College dominates, how much room for improvement is it? When you're already the number one scoring offense in the conference, when you're the number one rushing offense and scoring rushing offense, when you're the number one scoring passing offense, third in yards, like, how much can we really improve? Because it almost, I said semantics at the beginning of the first segment. That's what this feels like in football. Oh, well, we're just going to be more pass heavy. We're going to dominate in the passing instead of dominate on the ground. Okay, it's the same message. It's the same goal. It's just about how you phrase it and the philosophy. But, like, it's not an improvement, right? You can't, are you going to be 12 points better than the next offense? I don't know. Like you're already 9 up. Like, these are the things that we look at. You're not looking at him to come in and improve this team. You're looking for him to come in and maintain this team. Maybe on an individual level, you want to have a top 5 receiver in yards because you were 8 last year. And you could probably get that out of him. because he's a receiver guy. He's been able to develop receivers, whether that was at Ole Miss, West Florida. He's had good receiver play. So maybe you want to get that. Maybe it's the little things that you're looking at that you want to achieve. But as a team, the one place that you can look at and say, Chennis Berry couldn't get this done is winning a playoff game. That's probably the one thing that you could look at as a team. It's the most obvious thing to look at a team because you dominate every other aspect, right? You're looking at the SEAC. By the time you play football in the fall, it will be 1,000 days since Benedict College has lost a conference game. They haven't lost a game since they lost to Morehouse, October 23rd, 2021. That's how long it's been since the Benedict College Tigers have lost a game to a SEAC opponent. Right? So this is big shoes to fill. And you want to maintain a certain standard without maintaining any sort of rollover. No coaches, because a lot of the coaches left, right? I don't want to say no coaches, but a lot of the coaches left. A lot of players are gone. This is a situation, honestly, this is the situation that FAMU is looking to avoid. They're looking to avoid all the players leaving, you having a new head coach. I don't know if it happens immediate. Because of all the rollover, I don't know if these things snap, crackle, and pop, and all of a sudden you're right there. Like, I don't know if you all of a sudden just right into the SEAC championship game, right into the playoffs again. I'm not sure. But what I do know is that you're looking at what he said. And I think that Coach Dickerson has the right comment on this. He says, Benedict College has a big bullseye. Everyone knows who Benedict is now. We've got to uphold the standard. Coach Berry laid a great foundation, and that is our plan to continue to build success here and build a great program. We're chasing NCAA championships now and not just to be sitting as number one seed because they've done that back-to-back years, and they've lost in the first round. They've gotten a bye and lost their first game of the playoffs. So I love what he's saying. I love that he's aware. There's blood in the water, y'all, or at least they think it is. There's blood in the water when you're looking at the SEAC. All the Sharks feel like Barry's gone, we up. Chennis Berry is gone. Now it's our time to shine. And Ron Dickerson is saying, not so fast, my friend. In the words of Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend. Coach Berry has laid a foundation. We are not starting over. The foundation is there. It's now just time for us to build the house. It's time for us to build the program. And we ain't settling for SEAC championships. We going in the playoffs and we're going to win. Now, as we push forward, I want to look at our feature Friday. Brad Holmes, former North Carolina A&T Aggie football player in the 99 to the 2000, and now he is the 2023 NFL Executive of the Year. So that's who's going to be our feature Friday today as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And speaking of Brad Holmes, his Detroit Lions face the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC Championship game. Who you got? Do you got Jared Goff in the 49ers? Do you have Brock Purdy in the San Francisco 49ers? On the other side, you have Patrick Mahomes in the Kansas City Chiefs versus Lamar Jackson in the Baltimore Ravens. Now, these are two great games. I'm looking forward to both of them. But if I were you, I would go to FanDuel. Put down a $5 bet. Win or lose. Doesn't matter who you think's going to win. If you're right or if you're wrong, you get $150 back in bonus bets. So if you think Christian McCaffrey is going to go absolutely ballistic, go ahead and pick them San Francisco 49ers. Do you think that somebody can finally bottle up Lamar Jackson? Or is Lamar Jackson going to run crazy all over M&T Bank? I can't call it. But even if you're as doubtful as I am or up in the air as I am, go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to make every moment more and get $150 back in bonus bets if you're new to FanDuel. As we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day, every day, making it all the way to segment 3. And I thank you 2 times for that. Thank you. Thank you. I want to look at our feature Friday because it is Brad Holmes, and he is currently the executive vice president for the Detroit Lions and their general manager. At this current time, it feels like it's a perfect storm for Detroit. Everything is going right. It feels like generational curses are being broken for the Lions. Whether you're talking about the playoff victory drought, whether you're talking about the NFC championship drought, having one of their best seasons, having the most wins in team history, right? All of these things are going great for the Detroit Lions. You're looking at a head coach who he didn't win coach of the year, but he was such a good candidate that D'Amico Ryans, our Locked On Texans host, right, said that Campbell, the Detroit Lions head coach, could have shared the coach of the year with D'Amico Ryans. And frankly, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. I probably would have done it because that was such a difficult split on who to pick. It ended up going to D'Amico Ryans, but it says something that the team whose host, right, the host of the team who won this award said it could have been Co, right? So shout out my guy. He always show love, man. He always show love to TSU. So y'all need to show love to him, John Hickman. Y'all need to follow him on I only follow him on Twitter. I don't even know if he got an Instagram, but follow him on Twitter, John Hickman. I don't have it. Actually, let me see. Let's see. Let's go ahead and look him up real quick because I don't know the exact Twitter of it, but he's always showing love to TSU, man. So I think that we need to go ahead and show love, spread it in the family. John Hickman. So John with an H _ Hickman 12. So go ahead and follow him. That being said, let's get to our feature Friday because Dan Campbell himself has also found himself in the midst of a big time game or a big time season. And now he is the 2023 NFL Executive of the Year. He was named that on Thursday afternoon. So his HBCU roots trace back to North Carolina A&T. Before him was his daddy. He's a second generation Aggie. You're looking at him who his father was a guard, a football guard, right? Not a basketball guard, but an offensive guard for the North Carolina A&T Aggies. And, I'll say this, Holmes doesn't look like a big guy weight-wise. He definitely looks tall, looks a little broad, but he doesn't look like he carries a lot of weight. He was a defensive tackle for North Carolina A&T. He obviously has lost some weight over the last 25 years or 22 years since he's left North Carolina A&T. But, yeah, he was a defensive tackle, and he was on that 1999 MEAC championship team. Actually, in 99, here goes a little story for you about how Holmes has been able to fight adversity throughout his career. Is in 1999 on Christmas break, he was in a car wreck. And in that car wreck, he ended up going into a coma. He had a stroke and also had a ruptured diaphragm. Like, all of these things are a result of this car crash, right? You would think he never played football again. He had to go through speech therapy, right? Just to be able to talk right. Like these are things that we have to think about. You would think he would never play football again, but he bounced back. This happened in 1999, and he ended up being cleared to play in May of 2021, ended up finishing out his career and graduating from North Carolina A&T. So he was able to build up from where he was at because that's easy to give up. It's easy to not assume, because he was paralyzed. I forgot to mention that part. He was partially paralyzed on the right side of his body. So, like, there was a lot of things that said, get right for life. But football, done. We're not looking at that anymore. But he didn't accept that. And then he graduated in 2002. In 2003, he became an intern with the then St. Louis Rams, right? So he became an intern with the Rams, and he just worked his way up that organization and worked his way up. He became a scout, national, regional, combine scout, right? Just working his way in up that in the scouting department. Then he went player personnel. Then he was able to build into that and have a position leading the college scouting department. This is a team that has drafted Todd Gurley, Aaron Donald. I should have just said Aaron Donald and been done. I could have just said Aaron Donald and finished, right? We we say F them draft picks, right? Like we say that a lot. F them picks when you're talking about the Rams, because that's kind of their motto. But when you look at college scouting, they drafted Jacoby Durant. Oh, no, he wasn't there for that. Take that back. He wasn't a part of that. Excuse me. He drafted James Houston, but he didn't draft Jacoby Durant with the Rams. But they've hit on some later Cooper Kupp, right? You're looking at Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp. I'm done. Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp, Todd Gurley, finito. No need to even speak about it anymore. That's how good he was with the Rams. All of those guys were drafted when he was a part of the college scouting department. Then you look at him going on to Detroit. And I've highlighted what he's able to do for the Rams. But when you look at now that he's the executive vice president, he's the general manager, his draft history is absolutely ballistic, right? I understand you can't give people awards for what they do over the course of multiple years. But when you look at his draft history, when you look at Brad Holmes' draft history, 2021, the year he gets there, Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown. In 2022, Aiden Hutchinson. In 2023, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, and Brian Branch. And I'm only naming the certified bangers. I'm only naming the people you can't contest, right? And I'm already saying in 2023, they got 3 really good players. Sam Laporta was a second-team All-Pro as a rookie. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be one of those players who defines what a running back looks like in this era. Brian Branch is going to be a dynamic player in the secondary. You can tell all of those things through their rookie year. Aiden Hutchinson is a pivotal piece of that defense. He is a future franchise player at the defensive end position. Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown, same thing could be said about them. When you really just look at what he's been able to do, and you take out 2023, because those are positions that a lot of times don't get a lot of love, running back, tight end, slot/safety, right? Like those aren't getting a lot of love these days. But when you look at what Brad Holmes was able to do in his first 2 years, the first 2 years of drafting with the Detroit Lions, Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Aiden Hutchinson, those are arguably the 3 most important positions in football that aren't quarterback. The other one you can throw in there, or excuse me, is other than quarterback. The other one you could throw in there is cornerback. Got an offensive tackle, got a wide receiver, got a defensive end. In 3 years, you lock down 3 cornerstones. Special. And that's not even naming the depth pieces, especially in that 2021 draft. This is an exceptional record as a general manager when you're looking at the ability to draft. So from North Carolina A&T to the Rams to the Lions, you're looking at a guy who not only has beat the odds, has had overwhelming success, and now is your 2023 NFL Executive of the Year. I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. We'll be back next week. We'll be looking at Senior Bowl, Shrine Bowl. I'll be at the Shrine Bowl. I'll break down some of the players who are at these games on Monday. We'll do that sometime on Monday. But I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. Until next time that we hear each other, family, you can find me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Take care. Stay blessed. Peace.